good people don't smoke marijuana.
I've known Larry for a long time.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
This is the Medical Marijuana Radio Show with Larry Love. All love. I got something here for you and me. Oh yeah, it's the medical marijuana. Whoa, whoa. I got something here for you and me. Oh yeah, it's the medical marijuana. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Medical Marijuana Radio. This week, we're going to be talking to Sista B, also known as Barbara Lerond, and she's in the U.S. Virgin Islands. We're going to talk about her advocacy for hemp and cannabis. Are they the same thing? I think they are. And of course, educating people and what's happening in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we'll be right back in just a second. We did lose a major legendary person in the cannabis industry this week, and that was Frenchie Cami Cannoli. And he was bringing back the art of hash making the way it was done hundreds of years ago and thousands of years ago. We lost him, and it's very sad. But his education will go on with the people that he's taught. We'll be right back with Sista B right after this.
This is the Medical Marijuana Radio Show with Larry Love. All love.
And today we're talking to Barbara Lerond. Barbara is an activist, an advocate, and a business owner in the Virgin Islands. And welcome to Medical Marijuana Radio today, Barbara.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So it's nice to finally meet you in person. We've talked a few times before on Clubhouse. So tell us, about your activism and how you're advocating for this plant and the Virgin Islands as well.
Well, we're a very small environment. I start there and well behind. So the advocating and the educating started about 13 years ago. Myself and a few other colleagues went to our legislature and basically went to the candidate that we thought would best be willing to support the movement and said, hey, we want to work on legalizing this plant. There's too much that our people are being punished and neglected with as it relates to the plant. So in 2008, we had that conversation. In 2009, USVI Normal was formed, where I was a vice president for 2 years and continued with the remaining 9 years of its existence as the president. During that time, I worked with our Virgin Islands Senate body, several different bodies throughout the years, in educating them and even just opening the doors for conversation.
Right. How's their knowledge before you started getting involved with them? Did you sort of have to start from scratch? Did they know about the plant and so forth?
Nothing. Yeah. Other than it was the demon's grass.
Yes.
The devil's grass.
The devil's weed, the assassin of youth, all of that stuff.
They knew nothing. They did not even understand the difference between hemp and that we had already had such a strong use of hemp in our community from our ancestors' times till the present. As I said, we're a small community. We're an island in the Caribbean, and many of our shipping and traveling used to happen by sea. Mm-hmm. All of our packaging we would tie with hemp ropes. Our sails were all hemp made. There was so much hemp all around us.
Was it in your country? Were they making that rope and so forth right there?
Not making it here.
You had to import it.
Used here. Yes, mm-hmm. We import almost everything. Okay. I can almost say everything except for our local fruits. But it was quite an eye opener to the community in a whole, that this is not what people have made it out to be. In the very beginning, I was getting doors slammed in my face, literally. Phones hung up on me. Radio personalities laughing at me. Like, this will never be a conversation in the Virgin Islands. And excuse me, you can hear a plane go overhead.
We're good. Go ahead.
Okay. And actually, we have come to a place now through this persistence of education, and really, I can also say the rest of the world moving fast forward, that we are now with a decriminalization bill. I shouldn't say bill, law, a law with decriminalization. We also have the hemp law, and we also now have a medicinal law. What we don't have is rules and regulations as to how to fit into those laws.
Why is that? Has your island not started making those rules?
No, no. It requires a board of directors for that. What they have is the Office of the Cannabis Board Regulations, and currently we don't have a quorum. They do have members for the board, but not the amount that's required to make decisions for the board. They did at one point, and somehow more than one, there were those that left. So there's been no rules and regulations published. And at this given point, there's also a bill that was pushed by the governor that would actually legalize for recreational use, or adult use rather. And that's still in limbo with much work to be done. I've been a part of the work-in sessions with the Senate to fine-tune that bill as it relates to the adult use, but much of it included things like the medicinal use. So there was a lot of work that needed to be done on that, as well as the social equity element that was needed. We've come a long way.
Yeah, but what's the resistance? Where's the resistance coming from? Why don't they want to get this started? And go ahead.
I would say a lack of knowledge, a lack of their own. Again, we have Senate elections every 2 years, and not everyone is in that seat at the end of that term. So there's been a lot of start over that's happened through this process, so as it relates to educating the senators themselves.
Right. So at what point right now is your medical legalization? Is it active?
No, it's a legal bill, a law that's legal, but there's no rules and regulations to go with it. So there's not even an application process. Nothing. Right. It's sitting.
Okay. Well, well, of course, I don't know what the rules are in your law for medical, but as far as adult use is concerned, the country, your island can make a lot of money, on taxing, and if they do it right and not overtax it, they can just grind it out, and everyone will be happy. So, do you think you have to write rules and regulations for both medical and rec or adult use at the same time, or start with medical? I mean,
I think like everywhere else in the world has demonstrated, you need to get it you need to take a small bite and learn how to chew that before you can take the whole piece. And I honestly think that we do need the element of medicinal first. The plant is already here. The use of the plant is already here for every purpose that there is under the sun, to include recreational. We have Sacramento. We have a huge Rastafarian community here. And of course, it is the sacrament of the Rastafarians. So we actually use the plant in every fashion that it is designed for, maybe not in every item or product we haven't done. And legally, the only thing we can do is import it. And not for medicinal either, only for hemp.
Just for hemp.
Just the hemp. We can't import for medicinal. We can't import for Sacramento. So, of course, in order for that to happen, you've got a community of lawbreakers.
So what's the legacy market been like for the last 30, 40 years, from the 60s on, let's say? What has that been like? And when did decriminalization? You said they've decriminalized, right? Well, that's good. So they're saying, we're not going to get you in trouble for it, but we're not going to sell it to you.
Up to an ounce.
Up to an ounce, okay. And then
that only decriminalize possession. It doesn't, you can't grow it, you can't, none of the other stuff.
Okay.
You can, it just shows up in your hand, an ounce. Wow, I've got an ounce.
And where
You
did
can't.
that come from?
Where did that come from? You can't grow it, you can't sell it, you can't manufacture it, but you can have it.
Sounds like Washington D.C. to me.
A lot,
It's been
yes.
pretty much the same way there, I believe, over the last bunch of years. They decriminalized it,
Yeah.
and they medicalized it, and they uh, have adult use, but I don't think that you're allowed to grow it, or I'm not sure what it is there, but it's just
Right.
so okay. So you need to educate the lawmakers, but can't you light a fire under them and say, let's get a committee together, and there's people here that need this for their medicine and so forth. Yes, they can get it, but you passed the law. Let's get it together. So the reluctance is to proliferate, to get it started is what do you think?
Honestly,
Laziness or what? What are we talking about here?
no, no, not laziness at all. I think education and opening, the mindsets of many of them. We have a lot of former police officers and law enforcement on our Senate right now. To be honest with you, had quite a few of those, and they tend to be a little bit harder to soften.
Yes.
They've been trained. They've been trained so well. But outside of that, I think there's also a great competition right now for who's going to own this industry. It's a small environment, which means we're not going to have 50 licenses for grow houses, for large grow.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to have the amount of business members that actually touch the plant as you may find in one of the states in the US allowed, which means each and every one of those licenses are being competed for by both locals and outsiders. And that's the challenge.
What is the population?
Less than 200,000 between all four of our main islands.
How far are they apart? I've never been. I should go someday. But how far apart are they? Oh, I know I am.
The furthest distance, which would be from, St. John, I'll put it this way. There are three main islands, which is St. John, St. Croix, and St. Thomas. Mm-hmm. St. Thomas is the capital, and immediately next door, a 15-minute ferry can take you to St. John, which does not have any airports or public high schools. Mm-hmm. They have to come to St. Thomas for all that.
Really? So everybody has to take the ferry to a school in the morning.
If you're in high school, you're taking the ferry. Yes. Uh-huh. Going to any public high schools. There's also a small, and that's a 13 square mile island. St. Thomas is a 32 square mile island. Water Island, which is a very small island in our harbor, has no schools, no hospitals, no nothing. Very small.
People live there though?
There is a population there, and there's a ferry that goes back and forth from St. Thomas to Water Island. And then St. Croix, which is the greatest distance away, is about 60 miles, and there are ferries.
60?
Yes.
60. Okay.
Yes. And that's the furthest distance between our islands, meaning, that triangle. That's where a lot of the trouble sits with how we legalize and how we do this, because it's federal waters that sit between us. So transporting between islands, if even we were to use, say, for example, St. Croix, which seems like the best place to grow because it has been the farmlands for so long. There's much more flat land there than there is on the other islands. We're very, very elevated. So it seems easier to just grow it on St. Croix and distribute throughout the islands. But there we have the trouble of crossing federal waters.
Okay, federal meaning the U.S. federal. The U.S. is counting that as their federal waters. So I guess the thing is, as far as that's concerned, you would have to wait until it's federally legalized in the next couple of years, we hope, right?
We hope. To transport between islands, yes. Other than that, you'd have to have sustainable infrastructure on each island.
Okay. Well, that's possible. I think that could work.
Possible.
Absolutely could work. So, what's the tourism like? How many people? I'm sure there's a number that you have written down or in your head. How many people visit each year? Because I'm trying to think about, how to build that industry in your very small country. Because out of 200,000 people, only X amount of them are going to use cannabis, and
They
and
say
so
two
forth.
percent.
2%. Okay,
They
so
say 2%.
well, okay, that's probably not a good poll or something. It's just an estimate because people are still hiding their use of cannabis
Exactly, exactly.
because of the stigma that's been on it, for all these years. So, what's your next move?
Actually, I'm right now in discussion with the University of the Virgin Islands. Come November, we intend to put on an educational summit at the university. They just embarked on a new um, uh, branch of the university. I think I'm saying branch, division. I'm not sure how to say that. Department. That is an agriculture school now with an arm of cannabis. So this will be we're hoping this will be an intro and an initiation of those programs beginning. That will be in November, the second week of November.
So, who's working with you on a curriculum? Who's working with the university?
We have the extension services that are doing that.
Hmm.
And what I'm doing is I have key people that I'm bringing to the table who are in the industry, who's been working the industry. Those are going to be the speakers. So basically all of the cannabis experts are going to come in and give these
Right.
tutorials.
And you
Education.
should find also somebody, to write, a course, on what should be covered and, growing, part of the education of what the plant can do and the different products that can be made. I mean, there's a whole curriculum that could
Well,
be.
there's a whole right that curriculum, that syllabus has been in play for some years. I have a business called Support the Thing, which I actually started when I stepped away from being the president of USVI Normal. That being because I couldn't be that and still be in the industry, work in the industry. And that has been a main interest for me as well, to be a business owner in the industry. So I started a company called Support the Thing. It's an LLC. And what it has done is it's taken up the ball and ran with it as far as educating and bringing the outside world to us. I do an annual celebration for the 420, of course, the big celebration. But in that, I also bring the experts. I bring people in. We talk about the many uses. We've talked about ways that this plant has been used industrially that we weren't even aware of, meaning the community, whether it be in foods for different hemp products, hemp protein, shakes, all those things were really new. Hemp milk were new to our community several years back. And in putting on the support the thing 420 each year, I've been able to focus on different angles of the industry and bring to the table exactly what is needed. For example, one year we focused on all the other businesses that support the plant and never touched the plant. Packaging, transportation, and so many other things, security companies, the things that really, really are already here in our islands, but we have not seen how they would benefit or tie in to the industry becoming up and running, So we have had some syllabus. I'm working with the extension services from the university, who also has a big role in seeing this agriculture department be successful. And as I said, right now we're working on putting that program together, identifying exactly who we'd like and what is most important to bring to the table at this time.
So, as far as the hemp is concerned, the United States, has the 2018 hemp bill. Okay, so did that get started? Did people start growing hemp, or are all those rules being waiting on as well?
Well, we had a hemp bill sitting in limbo, and the author of that bill was smart enough to see that the writing on the wall and knew that it would become legal eventually. So there was a clause put into that bill that said if the US happens to legalize before we do, ours becomes automatic. And that is exactly what happened.
Uh-huh.
So our hemp bill automatically was put into law in 2016. Did I say 16?
You did say 16.
I want to
Yes.
make sure you heard that.
Yeah.
we're now
5
in
years.
21. Yes, we're now in 21. And I think there has been rumor of one, well, not rumor, I must admit, it was noted that there's one hemp license for farming that was just issued this year.
By the Virgin Islands.
Department of Agriculture, yes,
Department
here
of
in Virginia.
Agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know, did they were granted a license? Did they grow? Are they growing this year?
I haven't seen anything yet.
Uh-huh. Be nice to get a picture of you out in the middle of a big hemp field.
It will be. I intend
Yeah.
to be in every one of them as they come around.
Yeah. So so even though you're part of the U.S., whether that's good or bad, I can't answer for you. You have to write your own laws around, I guess, what the U.S. allows you to do. Is that a simple way of putting it?
Well, it's almost like DC. We're a territory,
Right.
and it's almost like the DC area. You know, the federal laws apply, but we do have our own what's known as our Organic Act. We do have our own. It's not a constitution, but it's it's what governs our Senate, our government. It's what defines how our governments run. And it's also what allows us to write our own laws for ourselves as well. So
Okay.
we have so there are some things in our Organic Act, which, like I said, it works as our Constitution, that refers back to the U.S. Constitution because, you know, those things are covered there.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, all right. So what about in the new industry? Let's say you go to, medical, which you have passed and you're still waiting to proliferate, and adult
Right.
use and the adult
Right.
use. How are you going to build in the social equity? What has it been like when it's been illegal? I mean, were people going to jail for long periods of time?
Oh, yeah.
So what's happening now, and how do you think after watching what's going on in the U.S. with the social equity and just everybody's passion about it and how to do it and how not to do it, whose responsibility is it going to be to write the right things and get it into this bill?
Well, it seems like I've taken that responsibility.
I think so.
Yes,
I'm pointing the finger. You're probably the most knowledgeable person around for it. So
when it comes to the broad perspective of this whole plant, I think I am. And I say that because we have experts in the medicinal world here. We have doctors that are already certified to use this as recommended treatments for patients, but not allowed to as yet.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they didn't obtain those certifications and knowledge here, but they are here. We have others who have grown this plant in what has been some of the most difficult guerrilla styles throughout the year. On the ground or whatever you want to, illegally, but know what they're doing, have done it for years. We also have many of our community members who have left the territory and gone to the industry within the U.S. to sharpen their skills and even run businesses there that are looking forward to coming home.
Oh, that's great. That's the part I wanted to hear, because, once you take, the girl out of the city, out of the not the city, but out of the country, and they see the big city, it's hard to get them back. But, I think that's great that people went and getting firsthand experience. Those are going to be the successful people coming in because, we see it here in this small state that I live in, of New Mexico, and there's a lot of people that want this opportunity, but they're not knowledgeable, know nothing about the plant, and they're going to have to start from scratch. So I think that's wonderful that some people are going to get that and will bring it back and be the ones that will help.
Well, they've been out there. They didn't necessarily go thinking that they can come back with it. They went because that's where it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to have as much conversation and bring out enough invitations to those same individuals that are now experts in their areas to come back and educate, or come back and assist, be partners with others that are here, start a business and develop some employment and training of your own, so I'm really about the social equity end of this as well. As much as I've taken the time to educate myself and even go out into the field and work in it, I spent quite a few years in Humble, between Humble and Jamaica, actually, working the industries that were already open and developing, so that I would have more first-hand knowledge of what I speak. Because I had been told, you don't know what you're talking about. And they were right. We didn't have the industry here for me to speak firsthand. So I went into the industry so I could speak firsthand.
Right.
But we have a really great opportunity right now to right those wrongs in social equity, because, for example, the bill with the adult use that was proposed by the governor, we have an opportunity now to make sure that is written with social equity in mind. I've actually submitted some verbiage for them to add to ensure that that's put into the legislation. When it comes to the medicinal bill that's already passed, there were some things that I really fought for to get in there that didn't make it. Some things did.
Like what? Tell me what did.
How many years you needed to be resident in the Virgin Islands to be primary owner of the business for the life of the business. Okay. For example, because we're a U.S. territory, just like any other state, people can travel from anywhere and decide to make this their resident, make this home. I wanted it to be first given to those who have had this as home for some time, or at least have some local ties to home. For example, we have people who have left the territory, but this is where they were born and raised. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important for the generations to come to inherit this industry, as opposed to it being primarily owned by only the experts that have been from outside, coming in and taken away again from us what we have really been punished through. We have no other option but to import for some time. And there's been a lot of people that's gone to jail for growing, importing, and even possessing right here.
So once it's become federally legal, you would be able to import from Jamaica if you wanted to, or someplace else, or the U.S. or whatever. So I guess my spidey sense here is saying that there's just not a lot of people there that will be able to support a huge business. Okay, so how do you keep it local and keep the local people, grinding it out and doing that? Like, for instance, which island are you on?
I'm on St. Thomas.
You're on St. Thomas. So what's the top population of just St. Thomas, let's say?
About 80 now.
80,000.
About 80,000. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you think only 2,000 are smoking?
Using heck no.
Okay.
No, I know much more.
Okay. All right. So how many dispensaries do you think could support that island?
Well, I'll tell you what the law states, that we would have 5 on this island.
Okay.
And then, we have the same number of grows. But that has also been an education process for those writing the laws. What is a dispensary? It's
a place that dispenses.
Exactly. Most people haven't thought of cafes. They hadn't thought of other areas that could actually dispense this medication, like pharmacies, already exist in pharmacies, not specifically one designed to just sell cannabis, but a pharmacy that already exists.
Right. The pharmacy. Okay. Well, for medical, for sure. Right. I mean, would they be, yes. So I understand that there are some states that I think Utah or someplace is trying that. I'm not real sure. I forget. We have all these states and the territories, and it's
Yes.
confusing.
States, cities, counties, they're
Right.
all
And sometimes they can be independent in setting their
correct.
rules. Okay, like here in New
Correct.
Mexico, they can't tell they can't, like, our counties cannot just say you cannot have a business here. Okay, they can regulate where the business can be, their hours and stuff like that, but they can't rule out this county's is dry. It's not going to have anything. Okay,
Mm,
we've learned in the past that that doesn't work. I mean, they're going to
right.
lose. They lose their revenue. The money's going out of the county into another county where they can do it. So
Exactly.
it sort of doesn't work. So do you have a plan on the best case scenario on how to do it in your
I do.
territory?
I do. I've studied this for 13 years almost now. And not just where, but how, um, with what provisions need to be in place to protect for cross pollination. Because our space is so small, you can't grow hemp and medicinal in any close proximities because then you're compromising your plants.
Right. The
Um,
possibility of contamination and ruining your genetics is terrible. So go ahead.
there has been some. There is a plan that I actually have written and laid out, and I have waited for those who get paid to do the job and the experts at hand to either come up with the plan themselves or commit themselves to the one that I would provide. But I have done some educating on why my plan is where it's at and allowing them some of the same insights that I've gained over the years.
So you just have to be sure you're not bullied by some other industries there that want to, like, control or get into this industry. Like the distribution part of California is just so weird, and it gets taxed, and people are making money all the way, every time it changes hands practically, and that makes for higher prices, and high taxes are gonna kill any kind of an industry. Okay, it'll just
Well, let's be honest. Nowhere that cannabis has become a legal commodity or a legal medicine or legal plant, whatever you want to call it, has killed the underground market. Nowhere has the underground market died. And it will continue to thrive because of the things that you're talking about right there. Now, I'm particularly I've said this for many years. I just want the plant to be looked at as a tomato plant.
hmm
Let it be just like the tomatoes.
instead of regulating like alcohol, it should be tax and regulate like tomatoes.
Yes,
Yes, I agree.
out, out, outside of the medicinal side,
hmm
where I think there needs to be, of course, more control factors for growing, processing, and distribution. And I say that meaning I believe that if we really recognize the medicinal properties and strengths in this plant and give it the value that we've been carrying the umbrella with, we can change our health conditions in our community. But we can't do that with compromised medicine.
Right. So my question is, I think that all the growing, whether it's for adult use or medical use, should have clean medicine for people. I mean,
Agreed.
I don't think there should be any difference. I think there should be standards of practices, to make
Correct.
sure, and you're going to need testing laboratories and all that stuff. There's going to have to be some standards on what residuals of pesticides and so forth at certain levels. I mean, the greatest thing about what you are involved with there in your small little corner of the earth is that you have so much to grab from other places that have already been through this. Now, the problem that I see is even here in New Mexico, where we actually had legalization, not legalization, but a medical was passed in like 1977 on a certain level, 77, but never, and it was like, it was a big study that they did back then. Okay, so that's a long time
Wow.
ago. Talk about, latency of taking
Yeah.
time to get things going. It was
Oh, I
two,
feel better all of a sudden.
it was 2007 until they passed our medical bill, okay? And then it was 2009 until they really had, it took 2 years of I guess, get the rules and regs and do all that stuff. And then it was really 2010 until we had any dispensaries. Okay, we weren't allowed to use the word dispensaries back then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Wow.
our system originally was you could order from the one grower here in Santa Fe that they gave a license to, and they only gave a license to them because they sued the state
Mm-hmm.
to get it,
Mm-hmm.
because it was
Mm-hmm.
just, manana, here in New Mexico,
Right.
So we would order it like in August. They'd have a menu of certain things, and then in September, there was a pickup date where we would meet in a parking lot of a state
Oh my
building
goodness.
in our cars, and then they would drop. They would put you would pay for. I guess we paid for it there too, and they would give you a bag with the stuff that you ordered in it, and you would pay them, and then you would drive off. So the first legal cannabis that I ever purchased was done like a deal in a side alley. Okay. And I will tell you this, I've told this before, but not in a while. When I got my card, my legal, my medical cannabis card excuse me, 2009. Okay. I went to the mailbox, and just all the hair on my neck and everything
Mm.
just started. I'm getting it again right now, just thinking about it. Just, wow, I have this now. Okay. It was such
Wow.
a moment and a feeling after smoking for, 45 years of, sticking it down your pants when you walk out of the dealer's house, and just, you took a couple of hits, at the dealer's house, and then, you're outside with it, and all of a sudden I can't find my car. Where's my car?
Yeah.
you know?
The unsafeness.
Yeah. So I really hope that you will take the great opportunity of learning from the mistakes of some of the states here, and just catering it right to your Virgin Islands, and it's going
I've
to be.
tried. It was a lot easier in 2008 to turn to those that had started the process, because there was only a few of them. And I chose to study Colorado's law when I first started thinking about how we should create our laws. Not only did I look at the law, but I also went into the rules and regulations, and that was it was a lot of rules and regulations to go through. But I learned so much through that. Even the distance that the light needs to be, and your cameras and lights need to be in the grow rooms, and where you couldn't have a camera, where it needed to sit outside that room because of lighting, different things like that. So much has changed since then, and so many people have began to write their own laws and pass their own laws and legalize it in their areas, that it's been quite a bit to keep up with. Like, okay, they're doing it this way, they're doing it that way. But I have tried, and I have adopted in my own plan, or my own recommendations for the plan, many of the things that were done outside, and applied it to what we have here. It seems as if with our small population that there wouldn't be much sales, but we have a huge, huge tourism market here.
So how many tourists do you have a year? Do you know offhand?
It's kind of hard to say that at this point, especially now with the COVID and what had been happening even just before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that meaning we just had our first cruise ship come back during the month of June, and we haven't had one since. That's since COVID locked everything down in March of 2020.
So it's a cruise ship stop.
It's definitely a cruise ship stop. It's a major port.
Does the ship stay overnight, or they stay for a few hours and take off? What's the routine there?
There are all the major companies come. Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, all of the major cruise lines come. And we have no one staying overnight right now, meaning when we were last in full swing. But we have had those that have stayed overnight throughout the years of our, say, for example, we can get up to maybe 6 at this time. We can get up to maybe 6 cruise ships at a time. with a minimum of 3,000 people on board,
On
a minimum.
on each one?
On each one, yes.
So wow, so that's almost 20,000 people could be
We're a huge tourist spot, and that's only the cruise ships. That has nothing to do with the sailing community, the boating community. That has nothing to do with our airplanes that take off and land several times throughout the day. We're a huge transit space. So the medicinal world as well, medical tourism is a huge element to this game here.
okay.
We have a cancer center. We have a cancer center here. It would be ideal to use the plant in that center and even attract people who want a space of tranquility to heal, you know?
Yeah, you could have cannabis oil clinics there where they could come for the
Exactly.
routine and so forth. I mean,
Exactly. So would that be
people,
considered a dispensary?
uh, probably a consumption area. So what you said about lounges and so forth is really important. That's got to be written in right away to
Exactly.
because when you do have people that are coming in as visitors, they have to have a safe, place to
And
smoke.
that was included in our legislation because I argued that, because I
Mhm.
understood that, you know. And so, like I said, because of our environment, there's a few things that we had to be practical about. We had to think a little bit differently about, as opposed to somewhere in the States where you don't necessarily have this fluctuation of tourists in this small spaces, you know?
Mhm. Does it when those ships come in and there's three or six of them there? I mean, is it like crazy? I mean, do they go from island to island, or do they just come to St. Thomas? What? How does that work?
Well, the main cruise ship dock and port for the Virgin Islands is St. Thomas,
Okay.
although St. John may get a cruise ship every now and then, a small one. St. Croix may get one or two throughout the month type thing. But we are the hub of the cruise lines that go throughout the Caribbean. So, say, for example, when they leave Florida, one of their first stops might be right here. Then they'll continue the journey after being here for the day. They
Hmm.
may go down to St. Martin or any of the other islands. And there are certain routes that they take every week. Like every week we see this particular cruise ship on this particular day.
Uh-huh. How
One
long does it take to take one of those big ships from Florida to
a
St.
day,
Thomas?
usually a day at sea.
So it's 24 hours,
Roughly,
roughly.
not necessarily 24 hours. In other words, if they leave Miami here, today's Tuesday, they'll be at our ports on Wednesday. So
Gotcha.
Wednesday afternoon. So there's a full day at sea before they start actually venturing into different islands. When they leave us, they'll be at a next port another day. So they have like a full day at sea when they're traveling, and then to go when they first start their journey, and then another full day when they're ending.
So that's a really important part of the commerce that goes on is your tourism. Okay,
Definitely,
so that's why
we
you.
cater to we cater to tourism. That's our main industry.
Uh So obviously the consumption areas and whether you can have a restaurant that serves
That
infused food. I mean, these are all the rules and regs that you need to be thinking about. And so, do you have like a crew of associates that are helping you do this, or are you the lone
I do.
wolf?
No, not at all. I do. There are many that have grown along with me here in the territory in terms of knowledge and understanding. But I also have made so many friends and so many acquaintances with the industry members throughout the US. As I said, I've spent such time in California and many other places, not just working, but networking with other industry workers and just researching for knowledge. I have people in Africa. I have a network that's really broad because of how we are structured and so differently placed. Not just because we're a U.S. island in the Caribbean, but because we're in the Caribbean. It
Hmm.
makes a big difference as well. Um, so no, I don't do this alone. In fact, I partner with people like 420 Media. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
I know who Carrie is very well.
There you go. I partner with her, and we do quite a bit on the education side. I'm also very closely related with companies like Kirk's Concentrates, who has done quite a bit of our education here as well. I could go down a long list of, people that have truly contributed to what we do.
Oaks,
And
the people, Oaksterdam, the people up there who are.
I've not had their participation as yet, but guess who's coming to dinner in November? That's
Dale Sky Jones.
We're invited. Yes, they're all working on getting those people here. Carrie is right now making those connections and agreements for them to be here in November, and the university is focusing on exactly how they'd like to lay out the presentations and the trainings that we have coming.
So wow. I mean, so like, do you work on this every day? You get up in the morning and you've got phone calls to make, and I mean, is this a full time?
Outside of trying to educate, I run my own cannabis company.
Okay.
I have a CBD distribution company. So I provide our retail spaces that do carry those that and doctors' offices and chiropractors and everybody else with particular lines that I would like to sign my name on to say these are products that are good quality. These are products that have been tested through the times and have received excellent reviews.
So these are basically products that are made in the U.S. that
Yes.
are legal to ship now.
Yes.
Across. Okay, those products are able to go in federal waters.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
I think that's. And so, how many locations do you have? Right
in
now?
Terms
of CBD,
the retail products
CBD
that
retail.
actually carry. I've got 2 on St. John. I have 4 on St. Thomas.
Wow.
And I have 1 on St. Croix. But those are that does not include the 2 chiropractors, so that would be 6 on St. Thomas plus another sports medicine location. That's 7 on St. Thomas. So it's growing. It's growing.
I think you should, instead of calling yourself a business owner, which you are, but it should be a entrepreneur.
Yeah, well,
You're
too. Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. You're
Definitely an entrepreneur.
You definitely described that for sure. What else would you like to touch on that we haven't?
Well, one of the things that has allowed me the reach that I have had over the years, not just locally, but internationally as well as nationally, is the radio program that I have been the host of. I've been on radio for about 12 years, but within the last year, just before COVID and into the early part of this year, I was actually hosting a program called Cannabis 101, which was a daily program for 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
On our and it generated so much growth in our knowledge and our conversation. It allowed the audience, it was a talk program, of course, and you can see clips of that on my Facebook page. Anyone who wants to take a look. It's probably the only thing you'll see me post on Facebook because I'm not one of the posters to social media.
What's your Facebook page called? Is it?
It's Barbara. Well, you'll find it on Support the Thing too, but you can find it on my homepage. It's Barbara A. James Laurent. Okay. That's my legal name, Barbara A. James Laurent. And you'll see where you'll see where I have the Facebook Live postings of my radio programs. I did 2 shows. I did the morning programs in the morning for an hour. Then it went to 2 hours. And then I did the afternoon show, or I was doing the afternoon show before this, actually, from 3 to 6 in the evening. There were nights when the conversation was so good. It was like the clubhouse. We would go till 9 in the night.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were you also like over the air locally?
Oh yeah. It was a local radio station, but I was the last, Cannabis 101 was the last local live DJ on that, or live host on that program, on that station for some time. So it allowed me the freedom to go later if I chose.
Right.
And as I said, the conversations were so good. Many times it just never ended. And I would have people tune in on the Facebook Live from Africa, from the US, from everywhere, just, being a part of the conversation as well.
That's just fantastic. Getting the word out. I mean, that's what I've been trying to do for the last 13 years here in New Mexico, and of course, with the wonderful internet, we can be all over the world and we can educate
All over the
everywhere,
world.
which is
Yeah.
what's so exciting. And the Clubhouse app has been just great for
Amazing.
just getting information from incredible people like yourself. And we lost your video there for a second, and your mic.
One of the great things that Clubhouse has offered to me, just like the radio program did, was not just an opportunity to share what I've learned, but to learn from others. And I love that about Clubhouse. Clubhouse gives me such a reach into an introduction to people that I would never have had the knowledge or the exposure to.
Yes, and the great part is they're there to share that knowledge, and these are like 30-year experts,
Exactly.
and from all over the world. We talked to, a few weeks
Israel.
ago, Israel to Gil, at
Yeah,
Luxembourg and Israel, and there's people just everywhere that want and have the passion for the plant, and they want to share this knowledge. And
right.
even though you and I have been involved using this plant for many years. Uh, I learn something every day. Every
Exactly.
day there's something to learn about cannabis and how to
It's
use
true.
it and what it's good for, and and trying to um, get the stigma taken away from it that we've had for the last 80, almost 90 years, that caused people to die painful deaths because they couldn't
Lose their,
use this. And
yeah, yeah.
we've known for all these years that it helps shrink tumors and Alzheimer's and dementia and all kinds, Parkinson's, ALS. I mean, our United States of America really suppressed the knowledge and the true reality of this plant, over the last 80 years. And that's the sad part. But you know what? It's ramped up the last 10 years. It's speeding up, and it's just going fast. I mean, we've waited 80, but it's getting there. And what you're doing in the Virgin Islands is amazing. And I can't wait till I get there.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome to come. I look forward to inviting many of those that I've met through Clubhouse and through the internet to come and visit once we have it all in place and can enjoy that comfort of knowing.
It
And
would
even
be
to
it would be a great clubhouse destination for a clubhouse sort of get together, a meeting.
I
How
agree.
how
I
can
agree.
people how can people get a hold of you if they would like to write you or help you or
Well, you definitely can find me on Clubhouse
oh
as
yes,
you can find me on Clubhouse.
Instagram, do you want to give out
Yes,
do you have a personal
Instagram.
website or
Well, you can find me on Instagram. I'm Sista B, which is what the community generally knows me as. That's my radio name, Sista B. And you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I gave you my Facebook location. You can also email me at sistab@supportthething.com.
supportthething.com? I love that, by
Not
the way.
not not thing, but ting. That's how we say it here.
Well,
Let me
spell that so
yeah,
people will type it in
yeah.
right, okay?
Right. Let me spell that for you. Again, Sista is SISTAB for Barbara at support SUPPORT DE ting
The
TING
ting man.
the ting one.
But
Yes,
without the mon, it's actually
without the one. So it's
.com.
Sista B, right? Sista B at supportthething.com.
Thank you, Sister B. Thank you, Barbara Larond.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate your love and passion for the people and the plant and everything. And thanks for taking the time today
You're
from the
welcome.
Virgin Islands. Thank you.
Yes.
We'll
Thank
be
you.
my pleasure. We'll be right back after this. Thanks again.
Bless.
This is the Medical Marijuana Radio Show.
I want to thank Sister B Barbara Larond in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I also want to thank my two radio mentors, both with the initials HS. Thank you for your inspiration. Don't forget my Late Night with Larawana show every Friday and Saturday nights, 9 p.m. on the West Coast and midnight on the East Coast. And peace and love, everybody. Peace. That's peace and love. We'll catch you next week with another great guest.